Dolores Hart was on the rise in the glitzy 1950s Hollywood scene. She appeared on screen alongside Hollywood heavyweights such as Marlon Brando and Montgomery Clift. Plus, she planted the first kiss of Elvis Presley's on-screen career in 1957. Still, she rocked the entertainment business with a move she made just 5 years later. Becoming a Benedictine nun required her to leave everything behind. But today, at the age of 86, Dolores Hart is correcting the record. In a frank interview, she discusses her relationship with rock and roll royalty. These are not your run-of-the-mill Hollywood scandals either. That is not all they are, and you will be shocked by the realities. The Hollywood starlet Dolores Hart becomes a Benedictine nun. Born Dolores Hicks on October 20, 1938, in Chicago, Illinois, Dolores Hart came from a devout Catholic family that instilled in her a deep love of movies. She had an innate affinity for the performing arts and followed her dream of being a Hollywood star from a young age. She managed to keep her foot in the glittery entertainment world and her heart firmly planted in her life's work. Because she came from a family that placed a premium on spiritual commitment and creative expression. An essential part of her story became this dualism. Loving You, Elvis Presley and Dolores Hart's 1957 film Da But was a box office smash. This part catapulted her into the public limelight and signaled the start of a successful acting career. Her sequences with Elvis, particularly the one in which she planted the first kiss of his cinematic career, were memorable due to her magnetic on-screen presence and inherent charisma. She became a Hollywood rising star after the experience, which brought notice to her talent as well as her composure and professionalism, working side by side with one of the most famous figures of the time. After this first appearance, in 1958, Hart worked with Elvis Presley again on the picture King Creole. This part proved she could hold her own against some of the most acclaimed actors of her day and cemented her place as an important player in the acting world. Her genuine and endearing performances, which showcased her talent and commitment to her profession, garnered rave reviews time and time again. Her talents went beyond those of a supporting actress, and Hollywood took notice. People thought she was a promising young talent who could change her career course for the better. The popular 1960 picture, Where the Boys Are, was Dolores Hart's second feature film, and it further demonstrated her versatility as an actor. The film showcased her talent for bringing relatable and captivating characters to life, garnering her praise from reviewers and moviegoers alike. Her career was taking off, and she was being considered for increasingly major parts and more exposure in the industry. With poise and will, she conquered the challenges of Hollywood with each project she worked on, proving her dedication to skill development. Hart played St. Clair in Francis of Assisi in 1961. She showed her commitment to truthfulness with a major personal decision she made while making this film. She resisted the need to cut her long hair for a ceremonial occasion and instead wore a wig. She prioritized artistic integrity and personal conviction over bowing to industry pressures, as seen by her choice, which expressed her respect for both the character and the story. It also showed that she gave serious thought to the parts she played, which bodes well for her career. Dolores Hart's life took a dramatic turn in 1963, when she made a choice that would impact her for the rest of her days. Despite her growing stardom and the bright future she had in Hollywood, she decided to give up acting when she was 24 years old and become a Benedictine nun at the Abbey of Regina Lotus in Bethlehem, Connecticut. Her decision to forego a life of fame and fortune in favor of a life of spiritual commitment and service stunned many in the entertainment industry. This decision revealed a deep inner calling, one that put faith and purpose ahead of celebrity and fortune. Her bold and extraordinary action demonstrated her unwavering dedication to a noble cause. Mother Dolores Hart's name changed several times throughout the years, but in 1970 she made her final religious vows and became known as Sister Dolores. Over the course of several years, she devoted herself to the Benedictine lifestyle via study, devotion, and service to the monastery. Hart's transformation from Hollywood star to devout Christian is indicative of a deep quest for self, knowledge, and commitment. It shows that Hart's principles went well beyond the fame and fortune she enjoyed in Hollywood. Her narrative exemplified unwavering faith and personal strength. Dolores Hart was the priest of the Abbey of Regina Lotus from 2001 to 2015, presiding over the community's spiritual and administrative matters. Her command demonstrated her mastery of organization, as well as her familiarity with monastic life. She continued to lead the community through difficult times and difficult growth, all the while maintaining a delicate balance between her many duties and creating a safe and spiritually fulfilling environment for the nuns in her care. Her leadership, empathy, and commitment to the values she had accepted many years ago shone through in her position. The 2012 documentary short God is the Larger Elvis brought Dolores Hart's remarkable life and decisions to the public eye. The video provided insight into her life and her decision to abandon Hollywood for the convent. Both the documentary and the extraordinary story of Hart's life were acknowledged when it was nominated for an Academy Award. The film proved that her legacy would live on long after she left Hollywood, proving that her narrative had an impact even after all these years. When Hart finally returned to the public eye in 2013, she did so by attending the Academy Awards for the first time since 1959. Her arrival was a moving bridge between her time in Hollywood and her life in the monastery now. It was a poignant reminder of the extraordinary journey she had embarked upon, a life where transcendent religion and early stardom were linked. This comeback gave followers and viewers a unique look into the life of a lady who has handled two completely different spheres with poise, honesty, and unwavering faith in herself and her beliefs. Even though she is typically held in high esteem, Dolores Hart's life has been filled with obstacles and problems, such as her controversial departure and illness. Many people talk about how she left Hollywood suddenly, while she was at the top of her game. A lot of people were surprised to see a young actress who had worked with legends like Elvis Presley and appeared in films like Francis of Assisi and Where the Boys Are, who had a bright future ahead of her, abandon the glitz and opportunities of Hollywood. Some wondered if her resignation had been impacted by hidden factors, professional disappointments, or personal relationships. Naturally, questions and speculation ensued. It is unusual and puzzling for someone to quit at such a turning point in their career. So many commentators wondered if she had walked away from stardom to avoid the constraints of the entertainment industry. On the other hand, others around Hart saw through his decision, which hinted at an introspective quest driven by strong beliefs and a higher purpose than material achievement. Dolores has always stressed that she felt a strong divine vocation to make this choice. She embraced this significant life change with great seriousness, and her claim that her decision to enter the Abbey of Regina Lai and devote herself to the Benedictine life was motivated only by spiritual conviction highlights the depth of her faith. She shows that there are various ways to reach personal fulfillment, and that these ways don't necessarily correspond to cultural norms of success. In her explanation, Hart made a puzzling decision by putting her spiritual calling ahead of a successful Hollywood career. However, it was a bold and well-considered choice. She has made it clear time and time again that she did not enter the monastic life on a whim or because she was unhappy in her acting career. On the contrary, it was an analytical and well-considered reaction to an irresistible inner voice. It wasn't easy to adapt to life as a Benedictine nun. The Abbey's austere atmosphere stood in stark contrast to the carefree atmosphere of Hollywood. Hart also had to figure out how to live a life that required him to be humble, disciplined, and committed to his spiritual development at all times. Her days became quite regimented, with prayer, work, and social responsibilities serving as the center of her existence. As part of their duties, they would chant in Latin, tend to the Abbey's farm and forests, and help out around the community in a variety of ways, such as cleaning, gardening, cooking, and mentoring younger Abbey members. She was forced to give up the freedom and glitz she had experienced in the film industry due to the daily regimentation that included defined periods for study, prayer, meditation, and physical labor. Adapting to this regimented pattern necessitated a degree of perseverance and commitment that few could equal, as the mental and physical demands of cloistered life were substantial. Making the change from a public, spirited, fast-paced lifestyle in Hollywood to a private, contemplative life with strict daily routines was no picnic. In order to succeed in this setting, Hart had to train himself to be patient, resilient, and driven. She was unwavering in her dedication to her profession, despite these challenges. The seriousness with which she addressed her spiritual path, and the inner power that has defined much of her life since leaving the entertainment world, are both reflected in her determination to completely embrace this life. Hart showed that following one's values and being true to oneself are more important than being famous or having a successful career. By totally devoting to her faith, Dolores Hart's life has been complicated enough, without having to deal with the additional difficulties of adjusting to a monastic living and her long history of serious health problems. After having root canal surgery in 1999, she suffered from peripheral neuropathy, a painful ailment that left her unable to walk for a while. Nerve damage, known as peripheral neuropathy, can lead to numbness, tingling, and discomfort. It has also caused Hart continuous problems that have an effect on her day-to-day existence. Physically demanding tasks that most people take for granted, like walking across a room or working in the Abbey, become more complex and demanding. Resilience, like her earlier choice to leave Hollywood at the height of her stardom, was on full display in Hart's unwavering dedication to her duties and spiritual practice. She must be very patient and attentive to her body in order to manage this problem. Hart has had to find ways to manage her suffering, while still carrying out her responsibilities at the Abbey. Her incredible perseverance and resilience in the face of these health issues are on full display in her participation in communal prayers and her assistance with hard labor on the farm and in the nearby woodlands. Her strength of character is evident in all that she does. She has continued her functions and responsibilities with the same level of passion and dedication that she displayed during her early career and her transition into monastic life. Even though peripheral neuropathy has limited her mobility, the most renowned legacy of Elvis Presley. On January 8, 1935, in Tupelo, Mississippi, Elvis Aaron Presley came into this world, beginning a life that would be filled with both victory and tragedy. Elvis grew up as the only child in a humble, working-class family after his twin brother Jesse Garin was stillborn. Music had a significant role in his life from a young age, with gospel and country music influencing his interests and abilities. When Elvis was 11 years old, he spent $7.90 at the Tupelo hardware shop to buy his first guitar. Humble beginnings that would pave the way for a career that would irrevocably alter the course of popular music and culture. When Elvis Presley was a senior at Humes High School in Memphis, Tennessee in 1953, he had already shown a serious aptitude for the performing arts. Sun Studio in Memphis was where he started recording. Also in 1954, he recorded the song That's All Right, which would go on to be a landmark in rock and roll. For Elvis and the genre as a whole, this album marked a turning point because of the way it combined rhythm and blues with country music. He became famous in his hometown and then around the country thanks to his groundbreaking music, high-energy performances, and captivating stage demeanor. With the 1956 release of Heartbreak Hotel, Elvis's first #1 single on the Billboard pop charts, he finally broke through. The song's success launched an incredible career for him as a musician, demonstrating his one-of-a-kind voice, powerful performance, and capacity to resonate with listeners of all ages and backgrounds. An event that would solidify his position as a cultural icon was his debut appearance the same year on The Ed Sullivan Show. His electrifying performance, which he characterized by hip, hop, and charisma, captivated millions of admirers around the country, but also caused controversy among some viewers. In the ever-changing world of American entertainment, Elvis was a trailblazer and a divisive figure thanks to his talent, charisma, and controversy. Jailhouse Rock, a 1957 musical that featured Elvis's acting and singing talents, was the first step in Elvis's professional expansion into film. His impact on popular culture was further cemented when the title track of the film became memorable. Keeping up with the demands of a busy career and the intense public scrutiny that came with his growing celebrity were challenges that Elvis had to overcome. In spite of everything, he persisted in pushing the envelope and inventing, and his innovations in music and film will endure. His shows were more than just a show. As a result of these cultural shifts, youth-driven popular culture emerged in post-war America. Elvis Presley's enlistment in the United States Army in 1958, while he was enjoying a meteoric rise to fame, took him out of the spotlight for a while, but showed his dedication to community service. He juxtaposed his larger-than-life stage character with a degree of discipline and duty while serving in Germany until 1960. As he adjusted to life as a soldier, his public image became more nuanced in the eyes of both his legion of admirers and his detractors. His impact was unabated despite the fact that his military service halted his musical progress. He showed perseverance and adaptability by returning and reintegrating into the entertainment business without a hitch. The marriage of Elvis Presley and Priscilla Bolu in 1967 in Las Vegas was a media sensation and a watershed moment in his career. Nevertheless, the pair faced difficulties in their marriage as they dealt with the demands of public life and the intense scrutiny that comes with fame. Fans and the media frequently mixed Elvis's private life with his public persona, leading to widespread speculation about his personal life throughout his career. Regardless of all these challenges, his creative output and performance enthusiasm are what will be remembered most for his lasting impact. Following a hiatus from live performances to concentrate on film and recordings, Elvis returned with a bang in 1968 with his NBC comeback special. An important turning point, the special brought back memories of his thrilling performance and confirmed his continued significance in the ever-evolving music industry. Along with reviving his career, it proved that he was once again a captivating performer who could win over followers of all ages. His ability to grow as an artist without losing sight of his charisma, musical prowess, and capacity to strike an emotional chord with his fans was on full display in his triumphant return. The 1973 Aloha from Hawaii event, which Elvis performed live by satellite, proved that his career had an international influence, since it was aired to more than 40 nations. The event highlighted the technological innovations of the time, which enabled music to reach previously unimaginable audiences, as well as his lasting appeal. As a cultural icon around the world, Elvis solidified his status with this performance, which demonstrated the ability of live music to bring people together from different countries. Persevering in the face of persistent professional and personal challenges, he maintained a reputation as one of the most consequential performers of the 20th century by consistently delivering technically brilliant and emotionally engaging performances. At the age of 42, Elvis Presley tragically passed away at his Gratian estate in Memphis, Tennessee, on August 16, 1977. An incredible journey that started in modest beginnings and blossomed into a global phenomenon came to a close with his death. His influence was profound and far-reaching, even though he lived a brief life. Decades after his death, the impact of Elvis Presley's groundbreaking work in rock and roll and the musicians he inspired reverberates through popular culture. His innovative and inspirational legacy is a reflection of the complexity of a guy who was a performer, a cultural icon, and a very human being juggling the demands of an incredible profession with personal struggles, stardom, and other pressures. Elvis's controversies and difficulties. Despite his legendary musical accomplishments, Elvis Presley's life was not without its share of scandals and difficulties. In fact, his private life was frequently the center of more media attention than his public concerts. His romance with Priscilla Beaulieu was one feature of his private life that received the greatest amount of attention. Elvis first laid eyes on Priscilla when she was 14 years old, and they tied the knot when she was 21. Their relationship start and the circumstances surrounding it have sparked heated public controversy and ethical inquiries due to the vast age gap between them. Morality, consent, and the mechanics of celebrity influence are often brought up in reference to the relationship, even though Priscilla has written about it in her memoirs, describing periods of love and complexity. Critics and fans alike were drawn to their widely publicized union, which raised questions about the appropriateness of the age difference and the power imbalance that existed within the couple. Priscilla wasn't the only juvenile female Elvis allegedly interacted with in his early years of popularity. Multiple allegations have arisen indicating as much. Whether these claims are proven or not, they nonetheless bring up serious moral questions regarding celebrity conduct, consent, and personal accountability. The fact that Elvis's personal life became public knowledge as a result of his reputation as a worldwide icon shows how fame can amplify both positive and negative aspects of an individual's character. These partnerships, according to critics, show how power dynamics impact human encounters, especially when one person is much younger or more vulnerable, and how dangerous fame can be. Despite the indisputable greatness of Elvis's music, these claims cast a shadow on his private life, forcing fans and historians to consider moral questions alongside their awe for his legacy. In her memoirs, Priscilla detailed how Elvis's domineering conduct manifested during their marriage. It appears that there was a dynamic of control and influence within their relationship, as she described times when Elvis would give her medications to help her sleep or relax. Accounts like these complicate the public's view of Elvis by showing that his private relationships were frequently characterized by difficulties that stood in stark contrast to his public image. Although these actions take place in private, they bring up issues of emotional control, independence, and power dynamics in close relationships. Having a whole picture of Elvis's character requires knowledge of this facet of his life, which sheds light on the good and bad parts of his relationships with others. Reports of violent episodes in Elvis's personal life have surfaced with relational and behavioral difficulties. According to other accounts, he would occasionally act aggressively, and one of those instances was allegedly when he shot his fiancée after an altercation. His public demeanor was uncharacteristic of such situations, but they show how unstable the private lives of famous people can be. His complex character is shown by the difference between his emotionally tender musical performances and his violent outbursts, which serve as a reminder to fans that being famous does not erase the complexities of human nature or the ability for conflict. The stresses and strains of a life spent in the spotlight are highlighted by these incidents, which may occur less often or more often than reported. In his later years, Elvis struggled with a number of health issues, including an over-reliance on prescription drugs, chronic pain, stress from his many public performances, and the demands of being a superstar. His health was severely compromised by his prescription medication consumption, which contributed to his untimely demise at the age of 42. A more fragile and human side of Elvis is shown by the struggles with addiction, which expose the psychological toll of fame and the difficulties of balancing emotional and physical demands on a public persona. For people in high-pressure jobs where their problems are accentuated by the public eye, his substance abuse is an example of the larger problem of how health, stress, and professional expectations can intersect. Cultural appropriation is another much debated topic in relation to Elvis Presley. African American music, particularly gospel and rhythm and blues, was an important influence on his groundbreakingly influential musical approach. Some have said that Elvis took advantage of the financial success of black music without giving fair credit or remuneration to the artists who created it, even though he acknowledged the impact of black musicians and frequently professed love for their talent. Questions of justice, recognition, and systemic inequality in the music industry are heightened by this matter. The cultural appropriation arguments surrounding Elvis highlight the intricate connection between creative inspiration and moral obligation, making one think about how underprivileged communities' contributions can be unintentionally overshadowed by more prominent ones. When it comes to Elvis, Dolores Hart says it like it is. However, Mother Dolores Hart stands out as an exceptional exception, skillfully juggling the realms of spiritual commitment and Hollywood glitz. Hart, who was once on the rise in Hollywood but ultimately decided to follow a holy life instead, spoke to a sold-out crowd at Stonehill College at the age of 75. Her memoir, The Heir of the Heart, details her rise from glitzy Hollywood actress to prioress of the Abbey of Regina Lodi's in Bethlehem, Connecticut. She spoke about this while on tour to promote her book. The deep spiritual call that prompted her to accept the Benedictine way of life was something she had to know, she added, since there was something more essential to do with her life. A huge screen showed a black and white portrait of her from her Hollywood days as she talked, serving as a visual reminder of the gulf between her former life as a Hollywood star and her current role as a devotee, servant, and practitioner of meditative discipline. Although her acting career was limited, Hart made a lasting impression on Hollywood in the 50s and 60s. A number of notable performers from the time, including as Anthony Quinn, M&A Loy, Connie Francis, George Hamilton, and Montgomery Clift, featured in her 10 films during that time. She originally came to public attention in 1957 with her appearance as Elvis Presley's love interest in Loving You, which was both her acting debut and Presley's first leading role. Hart was completely forthright about the film's iconic kiss sequence, detailing the many takes that made every adolescent female in the theater green with envy. Within 5 seconds, the director shouted, "Cut!" I gulped down my next serving and we began our second kiss. Recalling the exclamation "cut" brought to mind the purity and raw intensity of the early Hollywood romance era, when actors' emotions were exaggerated for dramatic effect, yet still had an air of genuine charisma and authenticity. Curiously, Hart confessed that she was completely unaware of Elvis Presley prior to filming Loving You. She went from being a stunning pin-up college student in California to a star in an instant. "How do you do, Miss Dolores?" was Elvis's courteous way of greeting her when they first met, and Hart recalled that he later asked her out on a date, but she turned him down because she was worried about their late-night filming schedule. In an unusual display of mutual regard amidst the glitter, demands, and diversions of Hollywood, he remarked, "I understand and I appreciate a girl that takes her work that seriously." she recalled this incident. Even when confronted with the charisma and attention of a budding music star, Hart manages to maintain her composure and professionalism throughout this encounter, showcasing her early sense of personal agency. Throughout her hour-long speech, Hart explored many facets of her life, providing an honest account of her path and the defining choices that determined her fate. She discussed the profound effect her parents' divorce had on her tender years, how she knew she wanted to be an actress when she was 7 years old, and how her first film test was the beginning of a successful career. Most shockingly, she recounted the tale of the wedding she had originally planned, but ultimately scrapped in favor of a life of religion. At the tender age of 24, Hart was dropped off at the cloistered abbey of Regina Lotus in a chauffeur-driven sedan with only a carry-on bag. Many of her Hollywood peers were taken aback by her sudden exit. Still, it was a decision based on her deepest beliefs and one that would shape her life going forward. She had the guts to follow her spiritual calling even when it meant sacrificing celebrity, comfort, and public acclaim. Holy Cross Family Ministries President Reverend John Phelan thought about Hart's remarkable trip and the weight of her choice. She has a profound spiritual bond with God. He made this statement to highlight how deeply Hart is committed to her faith, that it is reflected in her own being. According to Phelan, two people with deep ties to Hollywood and spirituality were Hart and the late Reverend Patrick Peyton, who was known as the Rosary Priest and creator of Family Rosary. The unlikely meeting points of faith, entertainment, and public influence were on display in the life of Peyton, a candidate for sainthood, who had a history of interacting with Hollywood's biggest stars to encourage family prayer and global peace. His grave and the Father Peyton Center, which bear his name and stand as a physical testament to the everlasting bond between media, culture, and religious devotion, are both maintained at Stonehill College, where he is laid to rest. The exceptional devotion to her spiritual calling that Hart displayed throughout her story, in addition to her Hollywood background, enthralled the audience. Fans were captivated by her story of self-discovery as she transitioned from Hollywood stardom to the contemplative life of a Benedictine teen nun. After reading Hart's memoir and being captivated by it, Elaine Flanagan, 73 of Easton, went to the event. I picked up the book and dove right in. It captivated me. According to Flanagan, all I could think of was how her whole life had transformed. Iris Call also said that Hart had tremendous moral courage, perseverance, and faith throughout his struggle. So much has changed in her life. The faith and strength she possesses, Call stated, "I am astounded." These contemplations highlight the enduring influence of Hart's narrative, showing how her experiences continue to motivate viewers who perceive in her life an example of bravery, conviction, and change, merging the realms of fame and spiritual commitment in a manner that very few have managed.